Hey guys, this is Neddie with Rocket Powered Sound, and in this video I'm going to be showing you guys how UK bass lines are made to absolutely lose your mind. So I've got 4 tips for you in this video, and we're going to be walking you through all of them. So let's start with number 1, which is sound selection. So let me go ahead and show you this beat that I've got cooked up here, and then we'll dive into the things that makes it epic. So here goes. So that's extremely epic if you ask me. So the first thing that we're going to get into is sound selection, okay? The best way to make a bass line not hit that well is if you used a terrible bass sound. So this is why Rocket Powered Sound is fantastic, of course, because you get high quality bass samples and things of that nature. Yeah, so right here I have 2 layers going on, which are just 2 presets. I didn't do anything to them, no post-processing, no nothing. So I have the bass called Bot, which creates that little overtone. So I didn't do anything to this except change the shape, which was like roughly like that, and I just put it to like here-ish. So I added this for like the tonality. I thought it sounded very cool, very like we call it distinct, and that's why I wanted to pick that, because you can kind of hear that punch through very, very clearly when you play it in the context. It's very clear what note that's hitting, and that's the important part, is that you can kind of sing along with it. And then I have a second layer to it, which is yet another preset that I did nothing to, except I cut out the lows on this one just to make sure that the sub isn't interfering with the other preset that we've got going on. And this preset is called Pig. So again, I don't think this has anything done to it. I tweaked some of the knobs on the side here just to fit the tonality that I wanted it to be a little bit better, just so it didn't like interfere with the other one. Because like, if I play these together, you can kind of tweak this in a way that might sound a little too like just not quite fit right. So like, for example, if I do that, then it becomes too similar to the other one to where it like doesn't have a distinct like character to it. So I want it to be slightly separate, but also like work nicely with the other layer that I have going on. So that's what's going on there in terms of sound selection. I also have this little womp, which is like a sample that I pitched up from the UK bass pack called the Paste UK bass one shot in D, that I pitched up an octave, and then I just slapped it at the beginning, basically. That's basically all I did to it. And then I OTT'd it as well, but simple stuff. And then I have this little pad layer. This is just a raw pad, nothing to it. This pad Fox. Just put it on a nice high note, and then added a kickstart, which is like a sidechain plugin, so that it does that like pump effect. So it does that like na 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 na. You know what I'm saying? So adds an extreme amount of bounce, which will make you lose your mind. That's why you clicked on this video, is to learn how people will lose their minds to your music, right? So that's number 1. Number 2 is swing. So swing is very, very important to UK bass, UK bass line, whatever you want to call it. If you don't have swing, which I've actually taken the liberty of making a version that does not have swing, it will sound like this. Which, in my opinion, is considerably worse sound than this. So this is what you're listening for, by the way. Right, so first is this. This is the bad version. I don't know if it's just my ears being used to this, but it sounds worse when it doesn't have swing. So the way you do swing is if you're zoomed in on a 16th note grid like this, right? So we're in 16th notes right now. If you have normal 16th notes, so no swing, it'll sound like that, right? That's 16th notes. So this is 16th notes. But what you do in order to swing it is you go, so it doesn't really matter exactly how you do it, but all you have to do is you have to take the second and fourth notes of every like 4 16th notes, and you move them like backwards like this, or forward, whatever you want to call that. So like this. And so if I now play this back and loop this, it'll be swung. So versus this. Right, so that's how you swing something. Now, the way I like to do this so that the exact amount that I like shifted forward is, like, the way I do this to make sure that the exact amount is like the same every time is I go into a triplet grid, and then I shift it like to like this, like part, this little grid slot here, so that it like matches up the same every single time. So I get the same amount of swing every single time. And so that's what I did for this one. You can see that, like, you know, the little snare that I have here that I added in, like, as I was making the beat, you know, hits there. And by the way, all these drums in this project are from the UK bass pack. So you can get all these drums if you want them. But yeah, anyway, swing, very important. In this bass line, I didn't actually do any swinging, which is like kind of funny and convenient. But if I did do that, then that would also, like, if I did have 16th notes in the bass line, which is like, you know, when you would swing something. If I did have 16th notes, then I would have swung those as well. And then that would have made it sound very, way more awesome than if I did not swing them. So let's move on to tip number 3, which is the drum pattern. It does kind of matter, I guess, what drum pattern you use. I mean, there's different ones that like UK bassline has, right? So like the one that I have here is just a 4 on the floor, like this, right? Just the simple. But you can also, you know, be a bit more fancy and do like something like this. Right, and that might be kind of interesting as well. So like let me just do this. That's also pretty interesting. Might be a bit better if we remove this layer from that. That's kind of interesting. I think a 4 on the floor pattern is very heavy and very stompy. So if you like by removing that like by like adding that extra like gritty layer, you kind of reinforce that like the feeling that like this needs to be like super heavy and whatever. So yeah, I mean, I added these little accent notes as well, obviously to make it swing. Like the purpose of these was to like show that this song is indeed swung, that it has swing. Because if I didn't have these notes here at all, then you couldn't tell that it's swung. Right, like that, you can't tell that has swing, but if I bring these back, then you can tell that it has swing. I messed it up. I had an unswung note. I committed a cardinal sin of EDM right there. Anyway, yeah, drum pattern is obviously important. There's a lot you can kind of do. You can kind of copy some of like the big songs that you hear. I mean, I think a lot of what you're gonna hear is gonna be 4 on the floor, obviously. And the last and final tip is to treat your bass line not like a bass line, but more like a melody. So if you look at what I have going on here, it's actually not so much like a bass line as it is a melody. So when I write bass lines, let's say I'm writing a bass line for a melodic dubstep song. If you guys listen to melodic dubstep, you'll kind of get what I mean. So if I'm writing a bass line for a melodic dubstep song, I am most likely going to make that bass line follow the chords that I'm playing, right? That would make sense. Because if I have playing a bunch of other, like basically a melody, then it's going to start clashing with those chords. However, with UK bassline, there is actually no chords. It's just the bassline. I mean, as the title would suggest, which is great. Because then that means you can kind of do literally anything and it does not matter. You can treat the bass like a bass or like a melody. So that's what I did here. So instead of like, you know, doing like something like this, Like instead of doing something like this where it's like a clear, like clearly a bass line and clearly meant to be a chord. You know what? That's actually really cool. I'm not gonna lie, I proved myself wrong, and my point is actually kind of partially invalid now, but we're gonna move on anyway and pretend like that didn't just happen. This is why experimentation is awesome and why you should not just pretend like there is one rule to everything and then, like, you know, anyway. Yeah, that was cool. But anyway, yeah, I treated this like a melody and not like a necessarily like a bass line in terms of like the way a melodic dubstep bass line exists. So yeah, so what you kind of see me do here is like using this little higher pitch thing. I was like, you know what I want this to sound like? You know, and this was when I was making the beat. I was like, you know what I want this to sound like? I want this to sing like this. And then I was like, boo, 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 doo, 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 doo. All right, and I was like, that would sound really freaking cool. So then I added that and I made it sound like that. But like, it's important that it sings a melody. So anyway, that's kind of it. I think a lot of the popular UK bassline songs are going to sound like that. So I would recommend you to do that. I hope this video has been educational. Be sure to check out the link below for the UK bass pack from Rocket Powered Sound. Thanks for watching, guys. Be sure to leave a comment and subscribe and like the video, and I'll see you guys in another video. All right, bye-bye.